Everyone has an idea. The difference between someone with an idea and a business is the execution, is
Mm,
you just actually have to do it, right?
hmm.
So I had an idea and then I had this drive to see how to make it happen. We're making things look beautiful. And not to say that it's not important and deadlines don't matter, but finding that balance is really important.
You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to episode 203 of Design Curious Podcast. Today on the podcast, I have the privilege of interviewing Jamie Young. She is raised in Los Angeles by an artist and entrepreneur. Jamie was drawn to design aesthetics from a young age. A unique home and an out-of-the-box perspective molded the person she is today. Growing up in the heart of entertainment industry during the 70s and 80s, Jamie was surrounded by a colorful cast of eccentric characters. Professional writers, painters, athletes, actors, and creative business-minded mentors. Inspiration was around every corner. After high school, she continued her studies at Parsons School of Design in New York City. She and her now husband, David Jeter, also an artist, attended San Francisco College of Art, focusing on painting and sculpting with a deep knowledge of art history, and they met in 1992. Jamie's superpower was the ability to understand design and fashion in the home space and bring to market an elegant and bohemian perspective unique to her upbringing. David's deep knowledge of art and world history, coupled with brilliant and fresh designs, completed the package. Together, with the love of connecting to communities near and far, they founded Jamie Young Company in 1997 to fill a void in the world of home furnishing. For over 27 years, the husband and wife team of David Jeter and Jamie Young Jeter have worked together as Jamie Young Co., using their love of art, architecture, and adventure to craft approachable, design-driven pieces from coast to coast and around the world. The duo is inspired by their global travels as well as the comfortable and covetable designs from their home in Southern California. Jamie Young Co. brings casual elegance and quiet luxury to home design. And I was already familiar with her product when they approached me to have Jamie on the podcast, so I was very excited to interview her, and I really enjoyed our conversation, finding her inspiration and just the process of creating product for the design industry. So let's get into it. Hi, Jamie. Welcome to Design Curious Podcast. It's great having you here today.
Hey, thank you. I'm excited to be here. Love this.
Yeah, I was excited to have you on. I am familiar with your line of product and was very curious to have you on and hear about your story. So let's start with your early years and tell us how you got into being a full-time creative business.
Sure. Well, my very, very early years, as in being probably 7 or 8 years old, I always had a passion for design. I decorated my own bedroom. I dragged my mom to the Rose Bowl every month to pick out product, bedding and chandeliers and furniture and all that stuff for my own bedroom. And she was really open to whatever I wanted to do. So that was really fun. And she was a painter and a ceramicist, and she did
Oh.
batik and weavings and everything that you do in the 70s that were super hip and groovy in Los Angeles. And my dad was an entrepreneur. So it was in my blood. It was
Yeah.
something I always wanted to do. I think, again, from a very young age, that was what excited me. I was not a good drawer, but I loved the arts. And I went to Parsons School of Design. I learned commercial design there. I also learned graphic design and things like that. But it was always about learning the balance of design, whether
Hmm.
it was product or a room setting or fashion, I always loved as well. And that's really where my brain was and my heart and soul has always been. And then I
Okay.
met my husband, and he was a sculptor and a painter.
Oh.
And he too was always in the design world, and he was an art historian and loved to travel. And we kind of combined forces to make a living, right? Like you can be a painter, but you still had to make a living kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's how we started, is we joined forces, and he could draw anything and he could physically design things and I could art direct things. And then I loved people, so I did the sales side. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So, how did you land on lighting production and products and things like that?
Yeah, there's always a story, right? We were not a third generation lighting vendor. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of people out there that have been doing this and their parents did it and so forth. And it's been a long history of that. I had been driving down to Mexico and found cement garden pots on the street and I fell in love with them and I bought them, brought them back to LA, filled them with flowers, and went to a florist and sold them. And then I had to go back down to Mexico and find how to produce them. And that's how I started really. And then I said to my husband, I need help. You're building furniture, and I would love to design some lamps out of concrete because we were working in that material. So he started
Mm,
designing the lamps. And then we found some people to make them. We made our molds here in our garage, and David poured them. And I've always loved textiles. So I
yeah.
started doing the shades, he would do the bases, and that's how we started. Crazy kind of, you know, evolution out of nowhere. We
Yeah.
fell into it. And then I had a good friend at the time who worked for El Decor, and she was
Oh.
brand new there. And she needed a new maker. They didn't call them makers then, but a
Hmm.
new kind of hot, small manufacturer. And I laughed. I had three lamps. I just had my first child. I literally 2 months before she said, I'm pitching you to do this for a double page spread is what's new. And they came out and photographed us, and a business was born. It was
Wow.
really how it happened. It had three lamps and six lampshades in silk Dupioni.
Wow. Oh my goodness. What a way to start. That's great.
Yeah. We didn't
Yeah.
really know what we were doing. We had ideas. When you start a business, someone once said to me, everyone has an idea. The difference between someone with an idea and a business is the execution, is
Mm,
you just actually have to do it, right?
hmm.
So I had an idea and then I had this drive to see how to make it happen.
So, how did you learn the business part of it? That's a lot of what I talk about. It's challenging for creatives oftentimes to do that business side. So, how did you go about learning it?
Well, the first part is that I know I needed to make money to pay my rent. And I really had to think and put on two different hats. I had a creative marketing hat and I had a business hat. And I think that I was willing to take risks. So I just dug in and I said, okay, I'm buying this cement garden pot for $2 and I need to make money from it. I'm going to see if I could sell it for $12. At the time, it was simple math. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm going to make money. I'm buying it and I'm selling it for that. Let's
Yeah.
go. I knew about trade shows, so I begged a friend to give me one wall in a booth in the New York gift show years ago. And I also knew that you had to make something look wow and you had to take a
Hmm.
lot of risk and put yourself out there and look different and get excited about it. So I just started building on that. I asked a ton of questions. I knew I was going to fail a billion times,
Mm-hmm.
but I did pay attention to the dollars. I didn't ignore the business side while doing the beauty and the wow. And I just had to keep coming back to, I still had to make money. I didn't
Yeah.
want to lose money. I didn't have money to start, right? So everything we invested in was on credit cards at the time. So I knew I had to make this make sense.
And what has it been like scaling up? Is everything still made in California or outsourcing it and having to control all of those factors? What does that look like?
Well, it's a long journey because we've been doing this almost 29 years. So when we started, we made it in Mexico, we brought it here, we packaged it here, we made the lampshades locally in Los Angeles. One day, my husband, who, because we also love travel and we could talk about how that influenced our
Yeah.
whole world, but he said, let's go to India and see what they can do. And it was completely I remember saying, what? Like, how are we going to get to India? I don't even understand. What are we going to get in India? Because what was happening is I was buying metal candlesticks from a local source. And my husband was like, look, we should be buying these metal candlesticks in India where they come from and wiring them in India so we don't have to touch it. And
Um,
so I was lucky to have a business partner and partner
hmm
who wanted to help me and look through this whole thing. Expanding and growing every year has been the challenges, but we're open to it. We were always like, okay, what's the next step? What does that look like? Who are we going to ask for help? I think one of the things I've always been good at is asking for help,
mm,
not thinking I know how to do it all.
yeah.
So the more help I got, the more I understood how to scale. We manufacture now in 5 countries, I think: India, Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, and in China. And it's taken us from a beautiful table lamp to we have a whole collection in the home, right? So we
hmm
do full lighting, mirrors, accent furniture, and accessories, and we keep growing.
Yeah.
But that expansion was one step at a time, really being thoughtful, being strategic, not being afraid of saying no when I wasn't ready for something, and
Mm.
asking for a lot of help. So, yes, year after year, we've been able to scale. It's hard. There's nothing about being an entrepreneur that I think is easy, and it's never overnight success. It's a 29-year overnight success. Like
Yeah.
we're just so happy we're here
Yeah.
and we keep evolving, and I think that's the other part of it.
Yeah. And you mentioned that travel has been an inspiration source for you. Can you expand on that and all the different travel that you've done that has influenced your product design?
Oh, sure. Yeah, travel when David said let's go to India, it was a big leap. It wasn't like we're in California, let's go to Colorado. This was,
hmm
let's travel around the world and see what is possible. And it just opened our eyes to everything. And we just dove in. So it's changed the landscape of our whole business because as we've traveled to different countries and gotten to know people very well and the connections we've built, it's all about the materials that they are specific in.
mm
So it's kind of driven our DNA of what we design and develop. And each country is slightly different. And it's been probably the best thing I could have asked for in my whole life, other than my kids, is this ability to go all over the world, is to learn other cultures, is to be respectful of what they can do and what they can't do, and build those relationships and create, spectacular things together with these people. Because a lot of the people we work with, they're small family-owned businesses as well, and we've
Yeah.
kept those relationships forever. And they specialize in certain materials. In Indonesia, it's wovens and woods and or some beaded. In India, it's metals and leathers and handcrafted things, but still everything we also do, I say still comes back to the Jamie Young DNA.
hmm
And, for listeners, I think it's so important that you find your DNA. You can never be all things to all people. So,
mm
who are you? And you stay true to that as much as possible. So, as we travel and have expanded, we are always asking that question: does that say Jamie Young? And if it's a pure no, then we kind of move away from it. If it's maybe, I can see that in expanding because we do always want to open our eyes and look at things differently. Again, it's really about asking about what our DNA is and what those beautiful places all over the world can offer.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And I like that you put a focus on making sure it's authentic to you and your DNA of the company, which really I think helps you to be stronger as a product that people see it and know like, oh yeah, that's Jamie Young in their collection. That looks like them. So
And that's really hard. You hold on to that. And sometimes, like even today, someone goes, oh, wait, don't you do mix and match shades in patterns? And we haven't done mix and match shades and patterns for 20 years or 15 years or something. So I have to continue to re-educate our customer that we are what we like to consider Jamie Young as a legacy brand that's also a startup because we have all this great foundation. We know how to produce product. We know how to market and create it. At the same time, I love to shake things up and make sure we're still relevant. And so
Hmm.
we go back and forth, always looking at that stuff. And
Yeah.
I do think for designers who are starting out, it's who are you? What's your aesthetic? What do you love that's old and new? All of that stuff. And for me, I'm always looking at what's my customer want. And I think for designers, obviously, what do the customer want and why did they come to them?
Yeah, that's probably a lot of things or some of the things behind the scenes that designers might not realize is happening for them when they go to a brand and that their brand is thinking about them and what they want to see, what's going to attract them. What other things that maybe we might not be aware of is happening behind the scenes for production from sketch to sourcing and all of those things that is good for us to be aware of as we approach a brand like yours?
I think when you approach a brand like ours, a vendor, and you're building those vendor relationships, there's so much to look at. I'll talk about two different parts to it. One is our process creatively is all over the place. It's organic, it's structured, it's in between, it's based on materials, it's based on our collections and merchandising. We think of all of those things so that when a designer walks into our showroom, they have enough diversity of product that we can be important to them. They can be important to us. I say that, but all designers are important to us,
Hmm.
small or large. So that's beside the point. But we want to be important to them. We want to make their lives easier. So behind the scenes, we do things. We work on customer service, where I'm training our staff on customer service and what does a designer need to make their projects go smoothly.
Hmm.
And are we communicating that on a regular basis? Are we human beings behind those phone calls and emails so they feel like they're actually talking to humans who really can support their needs? And it's not robotic and it's not scripted. We're all growing businesses and you get a client, you get a budget, and then you need to work on the lighting first from a construction standpoint. And you want to know that you spec a Jamie Young product or whoever you're going to go to, that they're going to have that product in stock for you 6 months down the road when they're ready to wire that product,
Yeah.
right? So there's all these little nuances. I think it's so important. We design based on the needs in really understanding the different looks around the country and that we're
Hmm.
hopefully filling those needs from a operational, administrative, or logistic, all the things that no one likes those words. They're not very sexy, right? But they're so important for the designer to make money. We have a very detailed outline of what we want to make sure your customer, you as the customer is getting. Things like when you talk to us and you spec a project, as I just said, are we going to be in stock? Are we going to hold that product for a few years in the line so that you spec something that then is still there?
Hmm.
Those are good questions you always ask. Okay, I'm specing the chandelier. Is it staying in the line? Now, sometimes we can't control things.
Yeah.
All the vendors, we're all human. We're all working with people all over the world. And sometimes a material is not you can't get it anymore, stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
always ask those questions when you're specing product. Do you stock the goods? We're 95% in stock. We stock merchandise so that we can ship quickly. Are the measurements accurate so that when you spec something, it's going to fit that space?
Hmm.
If you need a 40-inch round mirror and the spec says 48-inch, you better read the spec to make sure it's accurate because you're
Yeah.
going to get it and it's not going to fit. It might seem like really simple things, but that really makes a difference. Looking at the specs, looking at the inventory, and then really looking at freight. Asking all the questions about freight so that you quote the right product and the right price to your customer so you don't have to go back and make changes. Sometimes stuff happens, no perfect answer. But if you're asking about freight, if you're asking about inventory in stock, if you're asking if there's a damage, how does a vendor manage damages? A really good question. New designers need to feel confident that they are smart
Hmm.
and they know what they're doing, or if they don't, they know the questions to ask because vendors like us, we want you as customers. That's how we stay alive, right?
Yeah.
So you're important. Just have that list of questions so you know you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. That's really good advice. I like that. And also, like creating a relationship early on in your career with a vendor is great because you can be with that vendor for years and years to come. And the more that you're working with them and you get to know them, the better service you get and the better you're knowledgeable about the product and everything like that. So I think that's really good advice. A nice list of things to make sure you're asking your vendor.
Yeah, I mean, the relationship side is critical. I mean, part of why I started in is relationships with people, and I love that to this day. And I think that you will always get your best support by building those relationships and remembering that when things go sideways, because they will, that the person on the other side of the phone is not a punching bag, but really just a human being that might just be a messenger to something out of their hands.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're having a bad day, take a deep breath. Don't take it out on anybody else that's on the other side of the phone when you're a vendor, because we're just trying to do our best. Not everybody's responding in all positivity, but you'll get farther. You'll get more of a result being kind to that person that is trying to help you. You know, we're not curing cancer, we're making things look beautiful. And not to say that it's not important and deadlines don't matter, but finding that balance is really important.
Yeah. And I know that you have probably reps that will promote the product to designers, but as well, we talked about before we got on the call that you are very visible at markets and that people can come and take part in different events that you're hosting and just get to know the product and get to know the people working at Jamie Young, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm at every show. I love being there. I get a pulse of what customers are asking for, of what the salespeople need, or helping them train to tell our story. For example, with Jamie Young, we have a great story to tell. We have people behind the designs. We have a great design team at this point. My husband actually retired and we hired a great director of design, Jen Gibbs, and our creative director, Charlie Lowry. Everybody's working together and product. So get to know the people. It's really fun. Get to know the stories behind the product. And by doing that, that means coming to see us at trade shows.
Mm,
And yes, I am there. And we always have different events. You'll have to check on, what the next show. We're in Atlanta and in High Point,
yeah.
Jamie Young Company is. But when you go to trade shows in general, get to know the people. It's
Mm,
such a great way and really understanding the product because you're being hired to put beautiful product into your client's space and there's stories to be told. Nothing's inexpensive anymore. The
mm-hmm.
cost of all of this has gone up. We can't control that. So you want to make sure they understand it's handmade. We're in an industry where there's a lot of really beautiful nuance that gives soul to product if you source properly and you get to tell those stories to your clients.
I love that. Because sometimes when you are, as a designer, maybe furnishing a space, remodeling, or doing a new build, like you are creating that soul, the stories, and all of the character for that home sometimes because people are starting from scratch. And so it's great when you can have a product that has a story behind it like yours. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and you get to influence your clients. It's so important that we hear what our clients want, not just our taste, but theirs, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's that nuance between they're hiring you because they like you, the way you do things. And at the same time, everybody really is individual. And so, how do you get to push the envelope slightly for these clients to not be afraid of trying something a little different,
Mm-hmm.
to staying a little bit unique so that we're not all cookie cutter looking
Yeah.
exactly the same or looking
Mm-hmm.
like a model home, but that there's soul. And I know for Jamie Young, we're trying to always add layers of texture and material and shape and scale that feel special and have that soul.
That's great. How much do you pay attention to, or does the design team pay attention to trends or things that people are wanting versus what you want to design and put forward?
I think we have to do both if we're going to be smart about it.
Hmm.
I think that we talk about white socks. I know this sounds silly, but my business partner, Gary Finder, before he was my partner, he was involved in a sock company, and we used to talk about this concept that everybody needs white socks. Everybody buys white socks.
Hmm.
So, and I loved that. And in the home world, there's always those basics that people need, elevated basics. So I have to make sure that we're designing really good core elevated basics that people know they can come to us for. And then what is just some wows that we have such passion for from our travels that are amazing and different, and then everything in between. So when we do pay attention to what's out there in the design world, 100%, but it's a nuance. We need a balance of all of it. I
Hmm.
want a designer to come to me and see, oh my gosh, these are basics. I need these beautiful glass bowls for, 3 projects in their kitchen island. And Jamie Young has elevated glass bowls. I'm just
Yeah,
throwing that out as an
sure.
idea. And then I need that wow, crazy, interesting, bold floor lamp that's going to go in the cave looking, darker room. And then I need that incredible beaded chandelier that says wow in the kitchen. So I can't be all things to all people. We're never
Hmm.
going to be super traditional and we're never going to be super, super modern, but somewhere in
Yeah,
in between those.
yeah. No, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you've had so much great advice for all over the place for designers, for people starting their business. Is there anything else that you would say as we wrap up that if you were starting over, maybe what would you focus on first if you had to start over?
I know. You look back at it, and if I were starting over, I think from a business perspective, it's hard to say because I look back and I'm like, I had crazy confidence, sort of fake it till you make it confidence that was good because it got me
Hmm.
going. I sometimes wish I remembered that now.
Mm.
It's almost like the naive part of starting a business when I was 30 years old and didn't really know what I was doing, but trusted my instinct in design, trusted my instinct in merchandising and what people wanted. That helped me do this. And some days
Mm.
I overthink things today that I'm like, wait a minute, let's just keep doing some wow.
Yeah,
Let's just put it out there and not be so templated and not be so perfect. So, if anything, I have to remember some of the stuff I did to start now.
yeah. Well, that's interesting, but I can see how that is because you get so calculated and data driven as you go along in your business that you kind of let go of that more free spirit that you have in the early rough days of starting your business. So yeah.
Yeah, you have to remember both, right? With the
Yeah.
rough days, I had 2 babies. I had my husband and I, and no money, and we were like throwing it all on the wall to see what stuck. And it was a lot of energy put out, but it was fun and exciting. And so that level of energy, I try to bring back a lot now that my sons are grown and I have more tools at my fingertips and financially stronger. I have to still remember that great creative process. So hopefully, your listeners understand as starting out in the design world or second careers into the design world, you got to make sure that you're having fun because
Mm,
it's hard work.
hmm.
So just that idea of going for it is critical.
Hmm. Great. Well, thanks, Jamie, for sharing.
Thank you
Um,
so much.
yeah, we'll put links to your website, jamieyoung.com. And is Instagram also a good place to see the product and
Oh
new
yeah.
things happening?
Instagram, we'll get you links on everything. We have a great website. You can go in and press the trade portal on the top, and then you could register as a trade sort so that you can get your proper pricing. We do not sell to the consumer, but it looks like a consumer website
Mm,
when you go on it at first. It shows the
yeah,
MSRP, but you just go into the trade portal and you can register and see everything even more detail.
yeah.
And for us, we've got reps around the country. We're here to really support designers. And personally, I love the idea of mentoring designers too and people starting out in business.
Great. Well, yeah, I'm sure some people will want to reach out to you then. So
Yeah.
we'll definitely have that in the show notes. So thank you so much for coming on today, Jamie, and hope to see you sometime in the future, maybe at Market.
Yeah, please do. Thanks, Rebecca.
So be sure and check out the product for Jamie Young Co. They have beautiful lamps and all other things that they offer. And so I know you're going to want to incorporate that into your projects. Reach out to Jamie if you have any questions. And while you're in the show notes, you can find some free downloads and links. Also, you can sign up for My Design Mentor if you are needing a mentor, which would be me, to start out your career in interior design. I have so much to offer you on that platform that you can learn so many things and just get confidence to start the right way. So check that out. And that's all I have for you this week. Next week, we'll have another great interview. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.